I don't think I have the most negative stuff to say about The Boy and the
Shinoda
Heron.
definitely does.
Well, Chinoda doesn't have taste. What can we expect,
Yeah, I
really?
mean, the dude does like Damachi, unironically.
Exactly.
Says my fellow trash isekai watcher.
Listen, I can only defend people who love isekai trash so much, but when you throw Don Machi in that mix, it's like, bro, you just have bad taste.
Unironically love it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Anime Club After Dark's movie reviews, a discussion detailing the good, the bad, and the downright ridiculous of anime movies. I'm your host, Alex, but you can call me Senpai, and tonight I am joined by our czar of source material, John.
Hi, I just woke up. I'm very hungry. Could we hurry this up? Not like I just spent the last 45 minutes just riffing, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure.
Shinoda's seething.
Absolutely seething
Because he
over
wanted
here.
to start like 15 minutes ago, and I'm like, no, I'm going to keep talking.
About to start like 30 minutes ago, but sure.
Speaking of Shinoda, we have our boy and the boring Shinoda.
Miyazaki isn't as sexy as you think.
Okay,
Ooh,
wow,
okay,
that is a
like,
bold
just
statement.
straight
my
out
friend.
with fighting words, bro. Like, wow, okay.
So yeah, we are tonight going to be reviewing Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli's most recent film, that is The Boy and the Heron, aka How Do You Live, which is the Japanese title. I don't know why they changed it for the English release.
That's
But
so. What? What is it in Japanese?
How Do You Live? It's the
No, I
they got
meant
the
like
title.
not the translation of the Japanese
Oh,
title.
they mean like the
what's
transliteration.
the actual like it could be a pun in Japanese. That's why.
Well, they got the title from an old novel, from like I think it's 1923.
I can't read this. It's in the actual Japanese.
Can't actually read Moon Rune.
Kimitachi wa do ikiru ka. Well, that's it. Just ikiru ka.
Oh, that does literally translate to "How do you live?"
Yes, which is the title of a 1937 novel by someone. I don't know. Genzaburo Yoshino. Apparently, the movie itself, I haven't read the novel. Apparently, the movie itself doesn't have really anything to do with that novel, except that's where they got the title from. I still don't know why they changed it for the English release, but yeah, we're gonna review it. Obviously, directed by the great Hayao Miyazaki. What was supposed to be his last film, and then he immediately said, "Nah, I got one more in me, fam." Right after it released. Also written by Hayao Miyazaki, produced by Studio Ghibli, of course. Released on July 14th, 2023 in Japan. In North America, it had its release at the Toronto International Film Festival, where, fun fact, it was introduced by Guillermo del Toro. It also opened the festival in 2023. It's the first animated film to ever open the Toronto International Film Festival.
That's cool.
Yeah. And it had a wide U.S. theatrical release starting on December 8th, 2023. I do want to say that as of the time of recording this, it is still in theaters. So some of these numbers I'm about to give you now might change. We don't know what it was made on a budget of because that information isn't currently available. It may be in the future. I don't know.
Did you try asking ChatGPT?
Again.
I did, and it said, I don't know.
Ah, darn it.
I can tell you that as of December 14th, 2023, it is currently sitting at just over $103 million US in the worldwide box office.
Wow, that's more accurate. I have 99 million, but that doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's the minute you see Studio Ghibli, it's just like, okay, it's gonna make some money.
I'm gonna rush to watch it
because like I think Disney still owns the publishing rights to their stuff.
So this particular one was picked up by G-Kids.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know what happened because I was under the impression that Disney still had the distribution rights, or maybe they do and they gave it to G-Kids. I don't know exactly what the story is there. I have to imagine that, seeing that it's made over $100 million, it's probably made a profit.
I have to assume so. Yeah.
I feel safe in making that assumption.
Turns out he spent $1 billion.
Billion yen. Also has a total runtime of just over an hour at 124 minutes. Or I said over 2 hours, excuse me, 124 minutes. Now, before we get into the spoiler stuff with like the story and the narrative, we're going to talk about the art and the cinematography and the sound design and scoring. I think these first two things we're going to talk about may be the only points in which we all agree. I think we're all in agreement that this is a beautiful movie. Like, it looks amazing.
Visually gorgeous. Outstanding, honestly.
John and I were talking about it a couple of days ago. I think it may be their best, Studio Ghibli's best animated film.
I would agree.
Yeah.
The very beginning of the film, it starts off with like the whole, like, it's a fire, right?
Mhm.
And it looks very well animated. Like, the facial expressions of the people who are just like, oh my god, there's a fire, like they stylize them and make them like, whoa, it looks so cool. As I don't
almost
even
looks like
remember.
you're looking at a dream sequence.
Yeah, it's freaking nuts. It's so fluidly animated. It looks amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't think of anything at all in this movie to criticize it for visually. The art style, the animation is great. I love the sort of fantastical, dreamlike aspects to a lot of the scenes, especially later on in the movie. The use of like fire and water effects is done really, really well. I think there's a nice blend of both 2D and 3D animation in this movie. Very seamless blend of both 2D and 3D animation. I don't know. I can't think of anything visually to knock this on, except for maybe the fact that some of the fantastical creatures that they have in this aren't necessarily up to par for typical Ghibli films.
So this is a very weird Ghibli film because it doesn't feel like it has that Ghibli magic. Like, I don't like My Neighbor Totoro, for example, or Howl's Moving Castle or Spirited Away. Like, it's so fantastical and grand and in scale, and this movie doesn't feel like it has that.
They had more realistic things about this, and that took out some of the magic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't feel like a Ghibli film. But I do really appreciate that they kept the ongoing theme of like how they draw old people, because those old grannies were just like, I was like, oh,
I love them. They were so adorable.
They were so adorable. Oh man, small.
Where did you get tobacco, bitch? I love the little old grannies. I don't know. Shinoda, I think both of you have said it now. Like, this movie just doesn't have like the Ghibli magic, which is going to be a recurring theme in our review. This feels like a Miyazaki movie and not a Studio Ghibli movie.
Again, I feel like it's just because I've been trained to, like, because of, like, Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle, friggin' My Neighbor Totoro, Ponyo, Spirited Away,
Nazca.
The freaking secret world of Arrietty, Nazca Valley of the Wind. Everything is so, like, that's Ghibli. That all those movies scream Ghibli to me.
Yeah,
they follow a pretty similar formula.
Yeah,
Kiggy's delivery service, but watching The Boy and the Heron, it doesn't feel like it's a Ghibli film.
It doesn't.
Like, it does, but it doesn't,
Yeah.
We'll expand on that once we get to the spoiler section.
Yeah. Also, kind of moving on a little bit quickly to like sound design and scoring. Brilliant Joe Hisashi's score. I'm glad that he came back one more time to work with Miyazaki. I've always loved the scores that he does for all the Ghibli films. I will say probably not his best work ever, but definitely up there.
I mean,
it's definitely great to listen to. I enjoyed listening to it the whole time.
His soundtrack has been nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Soundtrack, so that's cool.
And I believe is this his first one ever? Were we talking about
that
before?
Yeah, I would mention it to you a couple of days ago that outside of Japan, I don't believe, at least I can't find evidence of it, and maybe I could be proven wrong. If I am wrong, let me know down below. That Joe Hisashi outside of Japan has never been nominated for any kind of award for any of his soundtracks.
You keep saying Hisashi. It's Hisaishi, bro.
Oh,
There's
sorry.
an I there.
Hisaishi, excuse me. Listen, I'm on 4 hours of sleep.
Me too, bro.
Bro. But yeah, so good for him. I definitely think he deserves it. It's a great score. I love the use of like little motifs for all the different characters. Like the parakeets have their own theme. The Wada Wadas have their own theme. It works. It all just works in typical Ghibli soundtrack fashion.
Yeah, it blends seamlessly. It definitely. I don't know if. Yeah, I guess.
Everyone and every setting still has their own themes, and it is done rightfully. I will definitely give it that.
One thing I generally loved is how when you're in the real world, so to speak, in this movie, like the soundtrack feels very grounded, but then when you go to the tower, I guess I'll call it, the music gets a lot more whimsical sounding.
Yes, yeah, which
Now,
is
I
actually
did
really
like
cool.
that a lot. I
Did
also
you
want
guys?
to talk about. Oh, go ahead.
So, did you guys watch it in English or Japanese?
I watched the dub.
Okay.
I, for once, watched it in dub. I'm planning on seeing the sub as well.
That was not offered to me, so I actually watched it in Japanese with subtitles.
You will watch it with subtitles and you will like it.
Listen, the only true way to experience a Japanese anything, just got to watch it with subtitles.
Okay,
Of course.
So you're telling me you've seen Full Metal Alchemist with in sub?
Oh, totally, yeah.
Okay, yeah, lies and slander.
I wanted to watch it in English, but it just wasn't offered around me.
I can tell you, having watched it, the English dub is genuinely good.
I thought it was fantastic. No questions about anything.
Robert Pattinson as the Heron did a great job. I listen. I want to say this. Ever since Twilight, and he heard that people thought that he was a bad actor, dude took that shit personally.
He's going around
Honestly,
disproving everyone.
No,
know,
he really
right?
has. Like he's been in multiple roles, both acting and voice acting, and he's done a phenomenal job. He is a legitimately good actor, and I will defend him on that. Like he actually is.
To anyone out there who still doubts it, go watch The Lighthouse. You will see how good of a fucking actor Robert Pattinson
Beyond
is.
fantastic.
See,
Also,
I feel
Mark
like the
Hamill in his
problem
4th Ghibli movie now.
is it his 4th? He gets
I think
invited
it's
to
his
movies a
4th.
lot.
It's almost like he's a professional voice actor.
I do like how, because he was
An
the grand
actor.
uncle. Yeah, he was the grand uncle, and I like how he just played the voice as like old Joker.
I didn't hear that.
I don't know. It's just not like he was an old gruff Joker.
I did not hear old gruff Joker coming from that.
It was good. No, I'm not. That's not a complaint or anything. I thought it was great.
No, personally, I just got it as a old wizened guy voice. That's what I got from that.
Also had Dave Bautista as the Parakeet King, who John and I realized the parakeets have Duke misspelled on their signs.
Yeah, they spell it D-U-C-H. I'm like, is
D-U-C-H.
his name
And
supposed to be Dutch?
I don't know, but
Dude,
I think the signs are supposed to read Viva Duke, like, long live the Duke, but it doesn't even get Viva right. It says VIIA.
Via.
Oh, guys, you guys are disrespecting their culture and their spellings and how they
Okay.
do things. Wow.
I mean,
Listen,
maybe
you know
it's
what? You know what? It's part of the movie magic because obviously the parakeets aren't supposed to be literate. They're freaking parakeets.
yeah.
They're birds, bro. Come on, we're taking this children's film a little too seriously.
So before we move on to the spoiler section, I want to ask you guys, just based on what you saw, would you say go watch it? Don't go watch it? Like,
I mean, I feel like I'd say go watch it. If you're going in expecting like a fantastical Ghibli movie, well, you'll be in for a shock, a surprise.
Yeah, it'll be a
It's
shock.
not what you expect. But after digesting and processing, I was like, you know what? I think that it is a movie that I would tell people to go watch. Like, yeah, go watch it. If you like Ghibli films, uh, maybe don't watch it, but it's not a bad film. I think people should go watch it, or at very least check it out when you can, like pick it up on streaming or something. I don't know.
I
I
feel like
fully agree, John. I would definitely say go watch it. Don't go in there with high expectations. Um, have them lowered and then go watch it. It
Yeah,
is worth seeing.
temper your expectations, because
Yeah.
again, going in and thinking, "Oh boy, I'm gonna watch the next My Neighbor Totoro." It's like, nope.
you are in
Like, no,
for
you're
a
not. It's not that
surprise.
great. But it is worth watching. It definitely is. And it's worth watching as a family, I would say. Definitely still good for kids. Um,
Um,
Alex?
yeah, I agree. I definitely think it's worth watching. I feel like visually it's a treat for the eyes. So if you like watching great visuals, definitely go watch it. Um, narratively, I feel like this is one of those movies that multiple viewings actually helps the movie. And I feel like I would probably enjoy this more if I watched it again. I don't know. I feel like
No,
there's
I get that
with all
because
the symbolism, I feel like maybe there's some stuff I missed along the way. I mean, clearly there's some stuff that I missed, which we will get to because John pointed something out to me that I clearly missed
Yeah.
um, watching this the first time. So I feel like
Well,
this might be a movie.
in typical Ghibli fashion, there's a lot of symbolism and allegories to
Yeah,
things
yeah,
in their films, just as
and if you
always.
blink, sometimes you will miss it.
Yeah.
yeah, straight up, if you blink, you will miss stuff.
But I feel like this is a movie for me at least that repeated viewings will actually help it, not hurt
I've
it.
actually heard the same thing, Alex, because I've heard from a good amount of people that they actually had to look things up or have things explained to them to actually understand some concepts or what was actually happening. So
Yeah.
watching it a couple of times definitely helps with this movie.
Yeah. Um, so
I
let's
want to
actually
watch
talk
it just
about
one more time in English, just because again, like this
yeah.
all-star cast, the Japanese dub was all right. It wasn't bad. Like I would say it was good,
Hmm.
right? It's what I would expect from a high tiered or a high production studio to be
Hmm.
hiring good voice actors.
I will say if I did have one criticism of the English dub, it's I can't remember who it is off the top of my head, to be perfectly honest. Let me look it up real quick. Um Luca Podovan, who was the English voice of Mahito, the main character,
Hmm.
um, in general did a good job. There are some scenes where it genuinely feels like this is like the first take and like they just went fuck it, we're going with it. And because it feels like the voice actor is like in a lot of the scenes is trying to age their voice down, if that makes sense, like make themselves sound younger than they are, because obviously they're playing a child character, so you'd want to do that. um but then there's some scenes like inexplicably where the voice just sounds like they're not doing that at all and they sound like a 25-year-old child.
Yeah, hmm, I
I don't
mean,
know,
I'm still
maybe
gonna
that's
watch
a
it. I
problem
don't.
with the editing more than the acting, I don't know.
I'll have to watch it and make my own decisions there.
But anyway, that's like the only criticism I kind of have of the dub. Otherwise, it's wonderful, and you get a brilliant cameo by Willem Dafoe midway through the movie.
No.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe. You remember the pelican that's like fucked up near the outhouse?
Yes.
It's like kill me in the dub. That's Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, I was
No.
not expecting
Just
that whatsoever, and I
and let me tell you
freaking loved
something.
it.
And let me tell you something. He is chewing that role up. He is at his Willem Dafoe best.
All right.
Uh,
So
Yeah,
let's
let's talk about spoilers. Spoilers. So if you haven't
spoilers.
seen it, go watch it if you can. If it's still in theaters by the time this comes out, I doubt it will be, but I'm sure it'll be on a streaming service soon. Um, Probably Disney Plus. I'm sorry about that. Um, yeah, let's talk about the spoilers. John, you and I talked about this. This is definitely a Miyazaki movie because it feels like it's a very personal movie.
Yeah.
It's literally
Um
based off of his life if you actually read his early years,
Ah,
it's literally based off of that.
I didn't know. I didn't know he fought Nazi parakeets.
So
Bro, don't you know
I didn't
about the
know.
parakeet conspiracy?
No,
Conspiracy?
I didn't know that this was based on his life. But that made sense to me after Alex said that, because I was like, this film did feel very personal, because this film is about the personal growth of a boy who's suffered through quite a lot, quite honestly, and he has to come to terms with like himself as a person and where he fits in life. And it's that's why after ruminating, I was like, it's actually a pretty good film, but it definitely doesn't feel like a Ghibli film. Like,
Mhm,
first of all, I mean, kind of because it starts off with the firebomb building in World War II, right? And
mhm.
I was just like, is this another Grave of the Firefly situation? Like, what's going on here? Because I went into this movie knowing nothing, absolutely nothing. I heard you guys were like watched it, and I was like, fuck it, I guess I can watch it too. We can do a movie review.
You said
So
you
that's
went with
what I
your
did.
wife and you saw the firebombing, and then you look, oh no,
Yeah, we both were like, "Oh no, is this a Grave of the Fireflies? We're not
we're
prepared for
not
this."
mentally prepared for this.
But I mean, it wasn't a Grave of the Firefly situation, thank God, because I was not ready to just be crying all night. Um, I felt like the story itself of, was it Mahito, right? The main
Yeah,
character's name.
Mahito,
Mahito's the
yeah.
main character.
It was very good because it revolves around him. His mom dies in the that firebombed building, and then his dad remarries to his aunt, his mom's younger sister. And Mahito is kind of just like, as the estranged stepchild would be. It's like they've got a kid coming on the way, and he doesn't know where he belongs. They move from Tokyo all the way out to the sticks. And one thing I really liked was the how they would tell you about the backstory, like the veneer of the backdrop of
Mhm.
like they're obviously it's World War II, like near the end of World War II or whatever, or in the middle of it. Actually, it would be in
It's
the
in
I,
the
middle
I
of
middle
it.
think
of it,
I think it's
actually.
more
Yeah.
in the middle because like Japan is not doing bad yet.
Yeah. So, yeah, he has to move away from there, but then like the whole like backdrop of when he gets there, there's the old ladies and they're like fawning over the dad's suitcase, and they're like, "Oh my god, canned beef, canned tuna, like oh my god, sugar and flour, they still
Antique.
have that." And it's like the reason they showed that is because this is when it starts to get bad, and during war, as people should understand, sometimes we have to give stuff out. Like we can't buy or trade, right? People
You have
give
to
you
ration what you
embargoes.
have.
You have to ration anything that you do have, and you send your resources to your soldiers. So it's like the after effect of that. They don't have tobacco, they don't have anything. And it's like they live in this grand mansion, but everyone who works here is old because it's in the fucking countryside, and they don't have basic things like sugar or flour. And it's cool that they chose to tell the story like that, which is again a very Ghibli thing to do. Things are happening in the background that you may or may not pick up on, but they're setting the stage for you without you having to focus on it, which is
And
great.
like the father who is based on Miyazaki's actual father, who also made military stuff for the Japanese army during World War II. Um, he's not unwealthy. Like he's got money, but even he has
He,
problems coming up with certain goods that are being rationed.
yep. He is a factory owner that we see much more wealthy than a lot of other people.
And
But
he still
even
can't
then,
get stuff.
yep.
Yeah, like
Um,
so like the whole Mahito goes to that new school he transfers in, right? And all the kids there have shaved heads, but he doesn't, right? Because he's the wild kid. He's the one who doesn't have to be part of the volunteer squad to help
Mhm.
like gather and harvest things for the Japanese army. So it's like all these little tiny things. We're just like
Oh,
it's like, oh, I love these little tiny like details that we're getting.
yeah.
Like it's not. I wouldn't say that these details were integral to the plot, like whatsoever,
Mhm.
but I would say that it helped fill out the world a lot more. It made it more enjoyable for me as a viewer.
It's definitely good world building. Like
Yeah,
it's genuinely good world building.
and I think it makes up for not being a super fantastical movie, Ghibli film with that, because it's a good, like
Yeah.
you were saying, it's a good Miyazaki film.
Yeah. I mean, he has pretty much said that this is supposed to be his magnum opus. I believe it by how personal this story seems to
Yeah,
him.
it makes a lot of sense. It's such a very personal story that he's telling because it's about a kid getting over his own like trauma and stuff.
And trying to find his, like, well, you said it, trying to find his place in this new family that he's got, because which I feel is probably something that's very relatable to a lot of people that have lost either their mother or their father or someone through either death or divorce.
Yeah.
Chinoda is having like nose issues, I think.
I have no idea what's going on there. But I will say though, the allegories in this film are
Mhm.
not as heavy-handed as like previous
No,
Studio Ghibli films.
no, it's pretty straightforward.
And that's again one of the other weird things. Mostly Ghibli films are pretty straightforward with like, all right, we're about activism and joining the community together. We're about don't pollute,
Yeah.
environmentalism. This film is like, nope, nothing like that. It's just about,
Yes.
hey, sometimes life happens and you have to learn how to process it instead of locking yourself away. And I'm like, oh, that's new for Ghibli. That doesn't
Which is
happen
kind
very
of
often.
like the
It's not necessarily the worst thing, it's just so incredibly odd.
It's
for a
different,
Ghibli
yes.
movie,
For a
yes.
Ghibli film, it is different.
Like the allegory of the tower being like, you have to try and find your way, find your balance, so to speak.
Yeah,
I like that visual like motif, especially once you meet like the grand uncle and you actually see him trying to balance different shapes into a tower. Like I mean, it's really straightforward, but it's quite apt for kind of growing up and learning to deal with that kind of stuff.
well, again, I believe that the grand uncle is a symbol for what Mahito could do. Someone who
Hmm.
locks himself away in a tower for like 100 years or whatever. You can lock yourself away from the situation you're in, and you can build every day. You'll have to rebuild it to keep up the facade, but you can rebuild it and keep going every day. But eventually, you get old and tired, and you don't want to keep rebuilding it. And then, like,
You get very cynical as you get old,
yeah, and it's like again, great symbolism, great Ghibli
which
style symbolism.
which again, I I have to believe that the grand uncle is just supposed to be Miyazaki.
Maybe I have no idea who
Maybe.
who the grand uncle is supposed to represent, but I really enjoyed this storyline of watching Maito grow as a person. Like, my favorite part of the film is when he's going to rescue his aunt slash stepmom.
Mhm.
And he's like, the one thing that he was afraid of this entire time was being rejected by her, right?
Mhm.
Having no place in the new family because his mom's dead, his dad is remarried, and they've got a kid on the way. And with most kids who experience this, they feel like they don't belong anymore. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
he
just a
starts feeling like
child.
an outsider.
Yeah, and he's the most fearful thing for him is to be rejected by her, and then she does reject him, right? And that like shock just like fucks him up so bad, which is why he passes out because
I
it's like
like
that mental shock.
his immediate reaction when she rejects him, like when he goes to see her when she's like sort of bedridden, and she's like swats him away, and I think even she even calls him her sister. Um, like his immediate reaction is to do like a heel turn and just go out of the room as fast as possible.
He
Yeah,
wanted to run
because
away. He's a kid. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
which makes
and
perfect sense.
yeah, because this is a lot of heavy stuff for a kid to process, and kids don't know how to process emotions very well. Hell,
Yeah, they
adults
have
don't
to
know how
be
to
taught.
process emotions very well.
Yeah.
Can you expect a 13-year-old boy to do it? Like, come on.
Yeah.
I think he might
Um,
even be younger than that. I think he might be like 11 or 12.
I, he's pretty young. I want to say he's like 10 or 11, maybe 12.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I do love the symbolism we get, especially once you get into the tower and he's just going all over the place with it. I loved a lot of the symbolism, like almost like dreamlike. It's almost like the whole thing is supposed to be a dream. Like that's the kind of imagery it is.
Yeah,
Because
and
it feels very disconnected at times.
It's very otherworldly in terms of setting and pacing, I
yeah,
would say.
Hmm.
not very high fantasy, but it is otherworldly.
Yeah. And like the I call her the pirate girl. I can't never remember her name, but the one that finds him in the when he opens the graveyard up and gets on the sailboat
Oh, that's
And
Kiriko. That's
That's
yeah,
young
Kiriko.
Kiriko.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that was when I realized that. I said, wait a minute, that's clever. That's clever, Miyazaki. I was really impressed by that. I don't know why I was so impressed by that. But speaking of like the Fantastic Beasts and stuff that we've seen in previous Ghibli films, besides like I guess you could say the parakeets, maybe the heron, but then we got like the Wara, and they just seem like a rehash of a couple of things we've seen in other Ghibli movies before.
Yeah, they're not as cute as like the rest. I
Yeah.
They're
didn't.
definitely not.
I was like, oh yeah, it was like I saw. It was like, oh look, it's the standard Ghibli cute thing, right?
It's
But I was
their
like,
merch. Look at the
It's the
merch.
thing they're going to
yeah.
make a plushie out of.
But this time I was like, it's not that great. They're just like little round things. Like,
Hmm.
I think that the heron was done really well because
Yeah.
I think that the heron is supposed to be representative of Mahito's ugly inner self. Like that's why he looks like that he does.
Yeah.
But I'm not, again, I don't know anything about this film. I'm not sure why Miyazaki made it or what it's supposed to represent. But to me, they were like two sides of the same coin because they had to work together to rescue his stepmom. They couldn't
Do you
like
know
live without
why
each other.
Miyazaki made this movie? It's because Shinkai is just trying to take over and he can't stand it.
Yeah. Miyazaki will not be dethroned. Even though I guess I feel like at this point he might, I'm going to look that up. In like after we're done recording, like how much has Shinkai made versus how much Studio Ghibli? Because I know Studio Ghibli has made like $1.5 billion so
But
far.
not every Studio Ghibli movie is a Miyazaki movie.
Oh, that's true.
A lot of them are, but not every single one of them.
I'd have to calculate which ones are. Yeah, I'd have to do some math and compare, but
Oh, be careful. You're going to hurt yourself.
I know math is hard.
Math is hard.
Listen, not all Asians
Summation.
are good at math.
There is a lot of show don't tell in this movie.
Again, very beautiful, very very Studio Ghibli.
Yeah, occasionally it does feel like you could tell me a little more, Miyazaki.
I mean, all right, so I understand it.
Here
It
come the
was
criticisms, by the way.
well. This is what you thought it was a hard cut, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, there's a point in this movie where I completely missed what apparently I'm supposed to get to make these two scenes connect. But there's a scene where he's going through the corridor and he meets the granduncle for the first time, Mahito I'm talking about, and they have that conversation, and then there's a cut to him being tied up by the parakeets, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. Did I miss an entire scene?
No. So what happened was prior to this, this is when he gets rejected by his stepmom and gets kicked out of the room.
Yeah.
And he falls unconscious. And then his mom falls unconscious as well. And the parakeets surround them. They're like, oh, we got the kids, right? And then he's having like a dream sequence where he's talking to his granduncle.
Yeah.
But that's all happening in his head. But in reality,
Out of body
or rather,
experience more
yeah,
than a dream sequence.
yeah, he's having like an out of body experience where he meets the master of the tower finally. And but in the reality, I guess he's being about to be cooked by the parakeets. So
Yeah. Also, that fucking like fucking comedy stylings of the disguise that the Heron is wearing. Like he's very obviously not a parakeet, and he's just getting right by all of them. I also like how he knocks out a parakeet right in front of another one, and the other one is like, I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah, the parakeets are so dumb.
They're so entertaining because of that, though.
Yeah, I guess. I think I figured out why that confused me though, because right after that happens, when Mahito passes out, there's an instant cut straight to like the fire girl. I forget her name.
His mom.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Like there's a cut to her, and it goes to like you see the parakeets surrounding her.
Well, so she falls on top of Mahito.
I know, and I didn't put that together at first because I am dumb.
See, I feel like this is a problem on your end, not the film's
That
problem. So
this is why I say I feel like my opinion of this movie will increase with repeat viewings because I will actually remember to pay attention at this part.
Not to mention, even in the very beginning, they showed her with the weird fire thing in the real world. And if you actually paid attention to that and remembered that, it actually plays into it all the way later when we're at this part of the movie.
Yeah, hearing it now, I realize that there was a setup and a payoff to it. At the time when I was watching the movie, I was very confused.
mm, I mean, all of this really is happening in Mahito's head. Because if you think about it,
So he's
again,
batshit crazy. Okay.
well, like I said, the reason I think that the Heron represents his other half, right, is because the Heron is the one who's like, your mom's not dead, right? And what's the
Mhm.
one thing that Mahito saw before he died? He saw his mom in like fire form.
Yeah.
And so in his mind, because he hasn't let go of her yet, it's representative of that.
Mhm.
But it's like to let go of his mom, to accept his stepmom, right? To accept his new life and find his place, he has to let go, which is what happens at the end, where she goes to her own door and he goes to his because he's finally letting go. Again, very personal, a very good story about a kid getting over, the death of his mom
Which
and
again,
accepting his new life.
it's very like literal symbolism when they have to open a door and walk through it to affect
Yeah.
that change.
So I I thought the film, again, I walked out of it saying like I didn't really like it. Like I don't really understand it, but after like ruminating on it and driving home and ruminating on it, I was like, you know what? It's actually a really good film.
Did it bother? Speaking of those doors, did it bother either of you that those doors were not numbered sequentially?
Yeah,
Yes,
that
Because
it
I,
did.
my God, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, oh my God, why?
I was just looking at it, I'm like, what is this system? How does this work? Why'd they put it like that?
Miyazaki, we need to talk.
I mean, I could spew some bullshit about how it's symbolism about events being near each other but far apart, right?
Everything
There's
being symbolism isn't a good thing.
Okay, John.
I mean, because like
This
where he's
film
at
wasn't
in his
made by
life,
David Lynch.
I, yeah, I don't, I honestly don't know. It's the design choice, dude. They chose to do it like that because it'd be, how else would it be that his mom and him would be able to say goodbye to each other like just one or two doors apart, right? That was
Fair enough.
the end goal, but the way to get there is to make it so all the doors are numbered not sequentially. Like that's probably the real reason.
Yeah. All right. So, Chinoda, I know you have a lot of criticisms of this movie, so lay it on us.
So, while yes, there is a lot of symbolism, I think their use of symbolism was overt and not in a good way. I think because they relied on it, it escapes a lot of people's understanding, not making it a good film, forcing people to think about it too much, which I don't think is necessarily a good thing for movies. Now, I don't know why they decide to go this route for this movie. I do want how do I say this? I
With
want the
words.
With words, Chinoda.
um let me put it all right, let me put it like this. I don't think it was done well. I think there are scenes that were fantastic and the overall story pretty good. But how, like John, how you're putting it, a lot of symbolism. I'm not sure if it was necessarily meant to be interpreted like that. I think like your interpretation is valid, but I'm not sure if that's like the way to do it. I think you can still look at it from the other side of yes, this all actually happened, but I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing either.
I mean, having it literally happen is what would happen in an actual Ghibli movie. Like in every other Ghibli
Exactly.
movie, like these people get taken to these otherworldly places or they meet these otherworldly creatures, and like it's literal, like it's actually happening. And this one, you're supposed to interpret it, I think, as either a dream or some kind of out of body experience or a vision.
But because it's Studio Ghibli, it's very well possible that it is, in fact, actually happening. But just, but if it is like that, that just means it wasn't done that well. I really don't think so.
Yeah, I can see that. It's again, it's missing that Ghibli magic.
It
I I,
is.
I don't
Is
because
is
it's
it
like
weird that the three of us together can't actually define what that means? It's Ghibli magic.
Just to put a take on it, I think it's almost all of Studio Ghibli's past movies, especially Miyazaki's, has been central and centered around environmentalism. This didn't have as much of that. It had some beautiful environments, but not as much of a positive message about environmentalism.
Wouldn't say
yeah,
all of Miyazaki's movies are about environmentalism, but that is a
Not
key component of
all
a
of
lot of the
them, but
themes he uses.
it's a highly main theme
Yeah,
in all of them, I would say.
yeah. I don't know. I was gonna say Ghibli magic is like porn. I can't define it, but I know when I see it.
You really can though. Well, that's real. That very much is real.
I don't know. I
And another thing to
That
say,
feels like bad criticism. That is, there's no Ghibli magic. It's like, what is Ghibli magic? I don't know, but I know it when I see it.
it's
it's
missing the
hard to define.
fantastical element because it feels too grounded. That's really what feels
Yeah,
weird about the film.
it does feel.
Because like
It feels
it's a
It feels
magical
too
tower, right?
personal.
Well, it's a magical tower, but we don't explore the tower or anything, right? He's got a clear cut goal, and it's not like we go through magical worlds and stuff like that. And with how it ends, like, yeah, it all really did happen because obviously they get shit on by birds, like quite literally.
Yeah.
uh, because there's a bunch of animals that are trapped in the tower, and they took a physical form, like a big humanoid form, basically, when they were trapped in the tower. But then, like, they get released, and it's like, oh, they're back to being regular animals, and it's like, okay, so I guess it really did happen. But part of me is like, well, it all did happen, but he's imagining all of it happening. He got locked in a tower, and I don't know. They had some fever dream. I honestly I can't explain it. Like the fantastical element of this movie
They did drugs.
because they return to the real world and everything is now real, right? Like even the Parakeet King is like in the real
No,
world
you know
now.
what? It was all a dream because he hit himself with a fucking rock and imagined
Yeah,
Actually,
everything.
no.
exactly, bro. He was
The
having
dude,
fucking
no.
I just thought about that.
He had a bad first day at school. Hit himself in the head with a rock. Everything after that is in his own head.
it could
He's in a
be.
coma right now.
Exactly.
I was just joking. While that is a possibility, I seriously doubt that. Just
By the
funny.
way, shocking amount of blood for a head wound.
Not shocking.
No, hit yourself right. You
I
really
mean,
will
yeah,
bleed out of your head
you
that
hit
much.
yourself right. You're gonna get a lot of blood, but man,
No,
they
head wounds
really
generally
emphasized all
do.
that blood coming out.
Oh yeah, it was a lot. But no, head wounds generally do bleed a lot more than like regular wounds.
Yep, I have personal experience in that. I would
I've never
absolutely
hit myself in
testify.
the head with a rock to know.
You know what, Alex? Go right ahead.
No, I'm all good. I'm all good.
I've done enough of that in my younger days. I don't have to do it anymore.
What?
What? You just didn't just smash your head against rocks as a kid? Is it just me?
No, normally people throw it at me.
Oh,
Oh,
damn.
dang.
Yeah.
This film, the plot and narrative, it really doesn't feel like Miyazaki wrote it. It honestly feels like someone put it into Chat GPT and was like, "Give me a Miyazaki Ghibli film." And
That is a
honestly, that like
harsh
it
criticism.
might be harsh, but I feel like that's true. It feels so. Here's element check, box check, whatever, and it felt like it was a script. It didn't feel like a what we
Aren't
would
aren't all
have.
movies a script, Chinoda?
Yeah.
Sure, all movies are, but the
I
fact
wouldn't
No.
say
that this
so
failed that script is what's wrong with it. It
to
didn't
use
capture
your
the real
analogy
element.
to use your analogy, Chinoda, I wouldn't say that someone like put give me a Miyazaki movie in ChatGPT. I would say someone put into ChatGPT Miyazaki's life story and said make a Ghibli styled movie around that.
See, that makes a lot more sense.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I could see that.
I,
Either way, though, that's not a good thing.
I will say I'd be highly surprised to find out that's true, seeing the absolutely
No, it's
disgusted
not.
reaction that Miyazaki had to AI art.
No, it's not
Yeah.
true at all
Have you seen that
whatsoever.
video where he has this very visceral, like sickening look on his face when he sees AI art?
No, I have not seen that video.
He's
It's
like,
great. It's fantastic.
someone
I
was
highly recommend looking it up.
there's like a team of people who are working on some like AI art algorithm and they're showing it off to him and he's just sitting there just with his typical look like stone faced, and then they just turn to him at the end and it's like, so what do you think? And he says, I'm glad I'm gonna die soon.
What? No, he
Yeah, this
doesn't.
man is
I
legit.
know that isn't it. That isn't what he says like verbatim, but it's like it's that effect.
Okay, I was about to say, like, I don't think Miyazaki would say that. Like, come on.
No, I could
It's some
absolutely see him saying
it's
that.
like I think literally he says something like, "This is absolutely disgusting and an affront to humanity."
No way. I gotta watch it now.
But yeah, I would be very shocked to find out that AI had anything to do with this movie.
I mean,
I seriously doubt it. No, I 100%
okay,
believe there
no,
is
that's
no
just me
way
being
AI
be like, all
involved.
right, well, how do you want to define help with AI? Because there's a lot of AI tools that people use in creations of things.
I would not be surprised to find out that the people who came up with the English version of this used AI to get the title.
The reason I say that is because like your Photoshop, right? Like using the magic wand tool. You know how that learns? AI.
Yeah, it does.
So there's certain effects where I'm like, well, that's powered by AI. So like AI is not entirely
Taking
bad.
backgrounds out.
Just
Turns
saying.
out we've had it for years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been like it's not a new thing.
All right. Well, to close out this review, let's give our scores. John.
I 8 out of 10. Honestly, I originally wanted to give it a 7 out of 10 because I was
Hmm.
like, it's just missing that thing. But again, after ruminating, after thinking about it, I was like, you know what? It was a good film. I can't knock it down points for the story if the story was actually good. Because I
Okay.
was like, I was going through my checklist, right? I'm like, all right, 5 of my points will at least be for the story. And I'm like, you know what? I feel like it's not that great of a story. And I kept talking to Alex about it. And I was like, you know what? No, I changed my mind. It is a good story. It's not a good Ghibli film, but it's a good story.
Okay. All right, Shinoda.
7 out of 10. I didn't appreciate the story as much. Definitely not a good Ghibli film or a Miyazaki film, I would say. Still worth watching. Audios and visual is through the roof. It's still very much stereotypical in terms of that. Fantastic, good watch. Definitely great to watch with the family. Yeah, check it out. Don't go in with high expectations, but very worth seeing.
I'm gonna be right in between you two. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. I feel like John, it's just missing that Ghibli magic. Um, and I don't know. I wanted a little more tell than show, although I did appreciate some of the symbolism for what it was. Um, and like Shinoda said, beautiful visuals, beautiful music. There is a lot to love about this film. Um, I just don't think it's amazing. I don't think it's a masterpiece. I definitely think it's a magnum opus for Miyazaki. I just don't think it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a magnum opus, Chief, but
I don't think you understand what magnum opus means.
do,
Yeah.
do I? Do I
I
have
think
it
you
wrong?
I think you understand magnum opus to mean this is the best thing he's ever created, whereas a magnum opus means this is the most personal thing they've ever done.
Yes. I think it literally means
Oh,
body
you're
of
right.
work.
Yep. No, you completely had it right. I had the definition wrong. Never mind.
A lot of people have the definition of magnum opus
A lot of
wrong.
people,
Yeah,
a
no,
lot of
I-
people think a lot of
because
people
I
think
did
that
think that,
magnum
yeah.
opus just is like a byword for masterpiece, and it's not. It's literally just
No.
whatever the creator is done that's most personal to them.
Like what they believe to be their magnum opus. This is the work of my life, right?
Yeah.
What it really actually means.
And Todd Howard calls that Starfield. Okay.
Bro. Bro. But,
Anyway,
all right.
that's my score for it. I am genuinely curious for those of you that have watched this. Let us know down below what you thought of The Boy and the Heron. Are we way off base? Are we too harsh on this? Are we not harsh enough? Let us know, because a lot of people seem to think this is a masterpiece, and I'm like, it's good. It may even be just barely great. I don't think it's a masterpiece.
Give us your takes. Criticize our review.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell Chinoda why he's wrong.
Please.
Yeah,
I welcome it.
please. Please.
Now, I am planning on going to watch it again, so,
Maybe with a
what I
repeat viewing,
think-
you might actually have a better opinion of it.
Yeah, no, really. So I will give an update if I change my mind on something.
On that note, thank you everyone for stopping by to watch us review The Boy and the Heron. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff down below if you like what you saw and want to see more. Check down below also for links to Anime Club After Dark on Twitter, on TikTok, on Discord. You can also check out our merch store down there where you can buy wonderful things like this lovely, lovely 3/4 sleeve t-shirt I am wearing. That really, really does help us out, and you get some really cool merch out of it as well. We have some new merch that should be coming with this new year as well, so be on the lookout for that. With that, though, I have been your host, Alex, and we will see you next time. Say goodnight, guys.
Good night.
Thanks for joining us.
Bro, his name is not Duke. It's Dutch.
It's Dutch.
Dutch.
What if his name was actually Dutch Duke? Duke Dutch.
What if his name was actually Via Dutch?
Oh,
And that was why they had it on the sign.
Maybe. We've had it wrong this entire time. Parakeets aren't illiterate.